guys, here come the dollies. They got fresh sinkers, hot coffee, and the sweetest smile.
Welcome back to the Clubmobile, everybody.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back.
So happy to have you joining us today. Good old-fashioned me and you having a yap.
Yeah, just me and you learning again from each other and figuring new things out. I think this is a really cool topic. I've been excited to talk about this one.
I'm very excited to talk about this. No shade to anytime we have guests on, honestly, because they're all so much fun.
Mm-hmm.
But I thoroughly enjoy the ones where you and I get to sit down and go, hey, we learned something. I want to talk about it.
Yes, that's really always very fun. And I like that we can then share it with everyone else, what we've been
learning. Yeah.
What we've been unraveling.
If only you guys could hear what we edit out of these episodes, though.
Oh, no, please no.
I sneeze a lot. That's really what it is. It's a lot of me showing my age. I sneeze a lot and I complain about the fact that I slept funny and hurt my back.
That's literally all I edited out last night when I did stuff. All I had was sneezes and pinched nerves. But
well, don't get old, kids.
Oh God, Jesus. So today we're going to be talking about the ATS, the Auxiliary Territorial Service.
We're on your side of the pond now.
We are, yeah, I was about to say we're on my end of the spectrum. This was an offshoot of the British Army for women, and it was formed in 1938. And it was, of course, the purpose was to free up male soldiers for the front line. They got a lot of empty spaces to fill, and they begrudgingly let women leave the house and leave the kitchen as usual.
Begrudgingly.
Begrudgingly. I never try to frame these things negatively, but I always feel like it was always begrudging.
That's just me. The men are always so surprised every time we read a book and the women do something really, really badass. The men are always so surprised. And it's like, you're still surprised?
You're still shocked.
You're still shocked? Like, yeah. Come on, guys.
But the ATS had a really cool story and a really cool start.
Their history stems back further than, let's say, their U.S. equivalent, which would be the WAAC, right?
Yes, correct.
Their history is rooted deep into World War
I.
I did not know.
It was one of those groups that it started in World War I, it was disbanded, and then they restarted it for World War II. In this case, many members of the ATS were former members of Queen Mary's Army Auxiliary Corps, the QMAC, and they joined the ATS in 1938. The QMAC was formed in 1917, and it was, again, the same purpose as the ATS, but this was during World War I.
Right.
And the QMAC was the first time women got to serve in the British Army as things other than nurses. And then it disbanded in 1921 post-World War I.
Right.
So they restarted it in late 1938. And the ATS's first chief controller was a former QMAC named Dame Helen Gwyn Vaughan, which is a very fancy name.
Yeah.
I didn't look into her, but
Dame Helen Gwyn Vaughan. That is a name.
Yeah.
You Brits are just, everybody's got a name, everybody's a dame, an OBE.
It's a name.
And it's like, and we're just over here in the States like, Joe Smith.
I didn't look into her, but I assume she was of some high status and some aristocratic connections because she's a dame and has two last names.
Yeah.
So process of elimination, I'm going to say that she was very high up there.
She was up there. She had rank.
Very high up there on the chain. Yeah. The ATS had some really cool, notable members that we will get into.
Oh, yeah.
But for now, we're just going to go through the basics.
I was very surprised to find that the age limit for women was higher than a lot of, I mean, you were letting in women between the ages of 17 and 43 were allowed to join. So women between the ages of 17 and 43 were allowed to join, but the rules were relaxed for those that were previously part of QMAC. Mm-hmm. So you could join, if you were previously part of QMAC, you could join if you were up to age 50.
And I'm assuming that was because they wanted experienced people
They probably were
in the
taking those
service.
experienced women as leaders. Like,
Yes.
what's the word I'm looking for? Like a battalion chief or like a platoon leader
Officers.
officers would be the older women. And then, but the 17 is what gets me because
17 is extremely young, and then you've
17
got
is
the
extremely young. The US wouldn't even allow anybody under the age of 18.
yeah.
And
I
if you
feel
wanted to, you had to have special written like parental consent
yeah.
in the
Britain
US.
was very Britain was very desperate.
That's
They've been at war since 39.
yeah.
So many men went overseas before, obviously,
Yeah.
American soldiers went overseas.
Yeah.
They were growing very desperate
Britain was
for
in it for a long time.
yeah, for strange things such as wood. Like they only had like a stockpiled amount for 7
Yeah.
months to build ships and airplane parts. So the men that cut down the trees were no longer able to cut down the trees. So they
You
had
had the
women,
land,
and
you have the
they
land
had the
girls
land
and the land
girls,
army.
and they had the women's forest corps as well,
Yes.
who they could volunteer from the age of 14.
Wow.
Yeah, so it wasn't unheard
Wow.
of for young women to
Yeah.
volunteer. A lot of these women, however, did not volunteer. After the ATS
Mm.
was granted full military status in 41, where women were still not allowed to undertake combat roles or go overseas just yet, a lot of these women didn't actually volunteer off their own backs. Conscription happened in England around 1941. In December of 41, Parliament passed the Second National Service Act, which widened the scope of conscription to include women. So it wasn't just
Yeah.
men that were drafted. I guess
Right.
conscriptions were drafted is your
Yes.
word.
Conscription is the British equivalent to
It all
being
means the same
drafted.
thing. All means the same thing.
We want you, basically.
Yeah. So in 1941, it called up all unmarried, childless, and widows into service, and they had to be between the ages of 20 and 30.
Mm-mm.
If you conscripted into the army, you were entered into the ATS, except for nurses who joined another offshoot called Queen Alexandria's Imperial Military Nursing Service. What a mouthful.
I'm not even going to attempt the acronym.
Quames. No, because I was about to say a really rude word. No, no, let's not even bother with that. Anyway, that offshoot dates back to the days of Florence Nightingale. That is how old that institution
Yeah.
was. So I assume a very well respected and very well rounded institution to join as a nurse
Yeah.
in the army. Technically, they all served with the British Army, therefore, they could wear rank badges and they could be promoted to the equivalent of officer, the equivalent
Wow.
XO, that kind of thing.
It really does go to show, not that, you know, they begrudgingly let women in, but even so, the difference between the ATS and the British Army and the WAC and the US Army was that, you know, yes, the WAC was the Women's Auxiliary Army Corps first. So there's the WAAC before they were
Yeah.
just the WAC,
Mm-hmm.
which was, I assume, the same as the ATS before they were, kind of brought into the military in 41. But Britain was so desperate that they were like, we have to draft women. Whereas
Yeah.
the US was like reluctant to even let them volunteer.
The US was far more begrudging than I would
We
say Great
we
Britain
really
was.
were far more, they really they did not want to loosen the reins on women in the US.
Absolutely not.
It
Even
was a
though they were
fight to get the women to volunteer. It was a fight for the women in the WASP who volunteered to even have military status, but they were trained. They
yeah.
had Air Force training. They were Air Force discharged at the end of their civilian service, but they weren't military.
Mm-hmm. They were given their
It just
they were given their discharge the same way any man was given an honorable
yeah.
discharge, but they were not militarized. Does that make
No.
sense?
They had
So
official Air Force discharge paperwork, but no, you're not. You're
yeah,
not military.
no, you're not. The reins were a lot looser in Great Britain, I
Yeah.
think purely from desperation.
Out of desperation.
Um,
Yeah.
I don't know how either the US didn't appear that desperate or they were lying to themselves.
that
I'm
a
not
lot of the books
desperate.
we've been reading lately, they're talking about how the US was, you know, not against the war, but no, we're not going to join. No, we shouldn't get involved. No, we shouldn't get involved. And
I'm
granted,
thinking,
yes, they
I.
were just coming off the back of World War One, coming off the heels of the Depression. They're
Yeah.
trying to kind of build their economy back up. So, of course, the one thing that I guess the government is going to say to reassure its civilians and its citizens is no, 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 no. We're focused on coming back as a stronger nation. We're not going to war.
Yeah.
And I think that by broadcasting that, they may or may not have shot themselves in the foot in a sense,
Yeah.
where Japan heard they don't want to get involved. They're not gonna, they're out, they're laxed, they're too relaxed. Let's hit them.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that opened
And that
the
opened the
door.
floodgates, and then we were forced.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then we reached the point of begrudgingly letting women volunteer because, well, we kind of have no
Yeah.
choice at this point.
Then the desperation set
The
in. I feel
desperation
like
sets in.
there was no preparation. I feel like Great Britain had some kind of preparation
Mhm.
from like 36
No, we were not
onwards.
prepared. We were
Absolutely
not prepared.
not. So at the outbreak of the war in 39 in Great Britain, 300 ATS members were billeted to France. They were not allowed to take combat roles. So they were recruited as cooks, clerks, and storekeepers. So again, women's work.
Clerical jobs.
They did, however, assist with the evacuation of Dunkirk. And it was a number of ATS members that were some of the last Brits to leave the area.
That was impressive when I read that they were part of the
very
Dunkirk
impressive.
evacuation. That's incredible.
It was incredible. I completely agree. And then post that in 1943, roles were expanded for women, and they could then work as orderlies, drivers, postal workers, and ammunition inspectors. They could not shoot a weapon. They were not allowed guns, but they could inspect the ammunition.
We're going to get you this close, but
yeah, again, I feel like it's the same old tale every single time. Like,
right,
not to look at it, but
not to be repetitive, but
a lot of these stories at like the cusp of it are very repetitive. It's women joins war out of begrudging desperation from her government. She's not allowed to do anything, and then they disregard the work that they ended up doing.
Yeah.
Tale as old as time, honestly.
Somebody make a Disney princess out of these women.
They wouldn't like it.
No.
They wouldn't like it. But these women could serve in any theatre of war. They were sent here, there, and everywhere, honestly. They were sent to Europe. A lot of them were sent to the China, Burma, India theatre of war, which I would love to get into later on, because it's such an unknown.
That's such an interesting.
Obviously, we have the European theatre, we have the Pacific theatre, and those are the two main things that you hear about. I don't ever really hear or read much about the CBI theatre of war, so that will be super interesting to get into.
Very infrequently does it cross our paths.
And it's only if it's vital information. It's never if it's like a passing quote or like a passing description. It's always like,
you see the ETO, you see the PTO, and you see North Africa, Italy, North Africa a lot as well.
Yes. Rarely do you ever see China, Burma, India. So that'll be really interesting to get into. And a lot of these women served over there too.
They did, yeah. There was 56,000 women that served with anti-aircraft units, but they weren't allowed, once again, not allowed to fire the guns.
They weren't allowed to fire the guns.
Could you imagine? Didn't we just see a video of the Australian the Australian Women's Air Force where they were testing the guns on a B-24?
Yeah.
And I watched it like 2 or 3 times and I was like, that's brilliant. They looked cool. It was so cool. They weren't very high up. They weren't wearing full gear, but oh my God. They were just in the waist of these forts. They were in the waist of these heavy bombers, firing machine guns to test them.
And the way they did it with such ease as well. Like
they looked so flawless doing it. They had their sleeves rolled up, but her hair was pinned. and she had her headscarf on, and she just looked so flawless behind this gun. And I wonder how many men got into their bombers not realizing that a woman fired that gun first.
Probably so many of them didn't know, which I always find that amazing.
It tickles me.
It also tickles me knowing that it was a woman first, and perhaps that they were not exactly happy about it. I think that's just the time, though. I think that's just the way things were. I don't think it was a lot of it. Yes, was a slight against women, but I don't think every single man had, something against a woman.
No, I don't think every single man. It's just that the way that history paints the picture is that it's a very wide brush, and it just says men begrudgingly let women join the armed forces.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a pretty wide spectrum. Brush there.
In terms of expanded roles, this is one thing I found super interesting. The 500 ATS personnel were trained to operate the cine theodolite, which is a photographic instrument used for collection of trajectory data. So these women were then given roles in STEM, essentially. Before STEM was an acronym or a thing, they were given a chance to operate this machine that only men had undertaken previously. So I found that really, really cool. However, these new roles were not without risk. 717 women were casualties during the war, and the first was Private Nora Cavaney, who died while operating a predictor on an anti-aircraft site near Western Shore in Southampton. And she was only 18 at the time of her death. Incredibly young. So war is dangerous for everyone, not just the men on the front lines overseas. Even for the women there and here that serve their country.
The more we dig into things, the more female casualties we come up with, the more I start to realize, I mean, I've always, but the more it really hits you that there's so many women that gave their everything, truly gave their everything, and never came home.
Yeah.
And you have to dig to find out who they are.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of this woman. She has a small Wikipedia page. We do a big episode where we get into like the basics of things, and then we get into the individuals. I would love to get into her story a bit more, depending on if we can find any more apart from the Wikipedia page.
Yeah.
I feel like we're really, we have people, we have rabbit holes to fall down.
We have people in rabbit holes.
I'm sure we will find a way to give her a good episode.
Absolutely.
This next part I found incredibly interesting because not only women of Great Britain were allowed to enlist in the ATS, women of the British Empire as a whole were allowed to enlist. And 5,000 ATS members served in the Middle East, with 80% of the members of that being locally recruited.
That's incredible.
Which I find amazing. It's something that I did not take into account. I thought it was just people from Great Britain itself, and I didn't think it was the whole British Empire could then.
But they were also very, Great Britain was very non-discriminatory in terms of who they were taking in, because even when we go back to the ATA, there were a number of different ethnicities that served.
There were a number of
in the
Indian
ATA, so
women,
Indian men and women, Australian. I mean, they took whoever wanted to join, could spare their time.
Exactly.
They took whoever wanted to join because A, they were desperate, but also B, they were way less discriminatory and way less stringent, I feel like, than the US.
Yeah.
You
say that, but this next part I found out.
I say that for a reason, because I always go back to the women who flew with the ATA, and even the ATA in general. The women who flew had insurance. They were paid equal to men. And then I look at the women from the WASP and I'm like, no insurance. If they died, they passed the hat around. Made the bare minimum.
Yeah.
As civilians. So when I look at it from that lens, and I'm like I would have gone to the ATA too.
I wouldn't have come back and join the WASP
No.
like a lot of the women of the ATA did?
No, I would have
too
gone with the
young.
ATA and I would have stayed with the ATA.
I'd have stayed my butt there. I would have
Yeah.
not gone back and forth. But upon you saying that it was less discriminatory,
Just wait.
Hold on. 300 women from the West Indies served in the West Indies Auxiliary Territorial Service. A third of them served in Britain. They were invited over to join, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
At first, these women were rejected on grounds of colour, and later with claims that they'd struggled to adapt to the British climate and the way of life. So a lot of British men in charge thought it's too cold for them. They will not do a good job, which is a terrible excuse. Yes, it's cold, but we get stuff done.
It was cold in the Ardennes forest too, but the 101st got it done.
They were fine, exactly.
I mean, that's a ballsy thing to say.
Right?
It's cold. It's going to be hard for them. Cold is cold. Sorry.
Cold is cold. Cold is cold, and war.
I'm going to start using that as an excuse to not go to work anymore. It's cold. I'm a woman. Sorry. I'm not going to get anything done.
I'm but a woman. However, it goes back to the desperation thing again, where in 1943, the demand for extra personnel meant that not only these women were admitted into the service, but also Black women were admitted into the service as well. And that, I think, also, you read the stories of how well the 6888 were received in Birmingham.
Yeah.
And they had no segregation. They could go anywhere they wanted to at whatever time. They were not banned from anything. I know that they said they had an excellent time in England and in Europe itself, that they were allowed to do things that they were not allowed to do at home. So yes, it became less discriminatory. I think it began less discriminatory in terms of gender and equal pay.
Right.
It did not extend to people of other colours until 43. So they got there in the end.
Unfortunately, isn't that the saying we hear more often than not? They got there in the end. But it's true.
And it took the desperation of needing more personnel in the ATS that they were like, fuck it, here you go.
Right.
Whatever. The Newark experiment. I found this story really interesting and I wanted to put it in. There was a secret trial named the Newark experiment in 41. And that proved that, I really don't like this quote. It gave me the ick so hard. Had proved that women were capable of operating heavy searchlight equipment, and they coped in conditions on the often desolate searchlight sites in order to replace men and free them up for overseas battle. I do not like the way it was worded. Alas, that is how it was worded in the findings, that they were capable and they coped in these conditions. As I was reading it and putting it in our notes, I was sat with my teeth like gritted. Like, I do not like the way that it's written.
No, that's
I didn't like that. Not one bit. However, that's the way it was written, and I don't want to reword it and not get it correct.
Yeah.
So they were used to free up male personnel, and they began training in Rhyl in Wales. Yes, that's how you say it. Because I could see you staring at the word saying, how do I say that? Rhyl.
Rhyl,
like thrill, but without the TH. How would you have said it? Ryle.
Yeah. Once again, the ugly American, ladies and gentlemen, that would be me.
I've been to Wales, but I've never been to Rhyl. I've heard of it, obviously.
Sounds like a real thrill.
We're keeping that in for, you know who's going to appreciate that? Josh from Foxhole.
Oh,
he will appreciate me saying that you're side-eyeing the word, how do I say, real? And then we're keeping that joke in.
Oh my gosh.
Josh, mate, that's for you. Have a laugh. Have a
laugh on us, Josh.
There you go. But they were first employed in Searchlight Troop headquarters. In July of 1942, the 26th Searchlight Regiment became the first mixed regiment, with 7 ATS women troops posted to it. So they had a mix of men and women. I'm guessing a few men, enough men in the British Army stayed put did not go overseas, and I don't think it was anything but to train these women who were capable and coped. The wording is, I don't like it.
No, the wording is terrible. But the wording is not ours. So
the wording is not ours. They then formed the all-women 301 battery. So after being trained by these men, they then all came together and they formed the 301 battery. And by August of 43, this comprised of 1,500 women. What an achievement to go from a mixed regiment to
1,500 women.
I hope their tagline was, "We are coping and we are capable."
Oh my God, these poor women.
You can tell that this has been itching in my brain.
It has. Yeah. You guys can't see her face, but I can see her face, and she's getting a little twitchy over there.
The eye is
the eye is going.
I know we have mentioned conscription a couple times in the National Service Act. I really wanted to get into that really quickly and tell people what it was, because yes, while it was the same as being drafted, obviously women were not drafted over here.
No. God forbid they draft the American women.
Geez, I know. They didn't, as long as they didn't volunteer, geez, stay in the kitchen. As we mentioned, Parliament passed the second act of the National Service Act, and it called upon unmarried, childless, and widowed women between the ages of 20 and 30. As personnel needs were getting bigger, married women were called up later, but not those who were pregnant or who had young children. I believe under the age of 10 was the benchmark. If you had a child under the age of 10, you were not to be included in the conscription. These women had a choice of what they could join, which I found incredibly interesting. So they could join the ATS, they could join the Wrens, they could join the WAAC, or they could join the Transport Service. And options later expanded into the Land Army.
But that's the same. I mean, they were drafted, whereas our girls just went out and volunteered, and they were like, I'm going to join the Waves, I'm going to join the WAAC, the SPARs. They could still pick, but they were of their own sound mind to say, I'm volunteering, I'm picking the Navy, I'm picking the Army, or whereas these women we're taking you, but here are your options.
You have to do something.
Right, we're taking you, but here are your options.
I like how even though they had to join, they were given an option.
They were given an option,
So it wasn't as closed in as you hear conscription, you hear being drafted, you're like, oh my God.
No, you hear that word and it freaks you out a little bit, I would imagine.
Yeah. A lot of women objected to conscription, which is not surprising. A third of people on something called the conscientious objector list were women. But despite this, by 43, 9 out of 10 women were taking an active part in the war effort in Great Britain. And this was in terms of conscription, it was in terms of home front work. I feel like they counted active part in the war effort as something as simple as you're rationing correctly.
Even going to they had Rosies in Britain. They just weren't called Rosies. They were factory workers. I mean, I know they were factory workers, but
they had different names for them. There was lumberjills and there was something else. Yeah, there was Rosies, the equivalent of an active part in the war effort could mean being enlisted, rationing correctly.
Victory Garden. I mean, although Gardens. I don't know, were Victory Gardens a very big thing in Great Britain?
Yes, they were, but they were not labeled
as
Victory
such.
Gardens. They weren't labeled. They were just, we are out of food, grow your own food as a necessity. Whereas obviously Victory Gardens here in the US began as a way to send food to England. It was bundles for Britain.
Right.
That's what that was for. But then when the US joined the war in 41, I believe we all began swapping things.
Yeah, like the Lend-Lease Act kind of fell by the wayside, and it was just, hey, you need this, let's trade.
Yeah, trading a lot happened. Trading happened a lot from what I know. But it was never labeled a Victory Garden. You can tell even from as early as World War I and World War II that Brits are not gung-ho about anything. There was never They have like really cool propaganda posters and like "we need you" stuff, and women wear this face cream for your man to think you smell like an ice cream cone, stuff like that.
Oh,
It's never,
Yardley's, right? Is that the British
yeah,
cosmetic company, Yardley's?
yeah. It's never victory. It's never the
Yeah.
I again another thing I'd
They were
love to get
always
into.
very
We're very
nonchalant.
serious. Yeah. We're very
Um,
serious people.
I'm currently reading Elizabeth Richardson's book from the
Mm,
Red Cross, and she
yes.
talks in one of her letters about how the Brits, they just keep going on about their day. They go to the theater,
Yeah.
they do this, they do that because they just, she quoted it in such a way that she was like, they figure if death is going to find them, or a buzz bomb or a doodle bug is going to find them, it'll sooner find them at the theater doing something that they love, whereas they're just waiting it out at home.
Yeah. Brits kind of just got on with it
They
after a
just got
while,
on
catch
with
up to
it. And at
being.
that point, it's 44 now. She's over there and it's 1944. At this point, they're at the point where they're like, yeah, we just need to get on with it.
We're
We've
just
been in
doing
this
it. Keep
for so
keep calm and
long,
carry on.
keep calm and carry on. Whereas she was complaining that America had absolutely a minimal grasp on what was
Yeah.
actually happening and what it was
I agree
actually
with
like.
that.
I agree with that
Yeah.
completely
I also agree with that.
because
We're
we
a
were
very
far
serious
removed. We were
people.
far removed from it, location
Yeah.
wise, far removed from it.
Yeah, in many ways. And I feel like politically it was ignored. I feel like the British government was telling the US that this is going to happen, you must prepare. And the US government was just, not my
Yeah.
problem.
No.
We will help you, but this is not my problem.
Right. We'll help you, but we're not inviting it to our doorstep.
Agreed. And then
It
it
showed up
turned up on their
uninvited.
doorstep, very
It
uninvited,
showed up very uninvited on our doorstep. Yeah.
which is, I assume, was a great big shock. But Brits are a very serious people. We're very nonchalant. We're
Yeah.
very
I would
fucking get on
assume it
with
was
it.
a great big shock. Unfortunately, there's nobody left in my family that we can ask.
Yeah,
Um,
there was the V for Victory, and there's the famous pictures of Churchill with a big fat cigar in his
oh
mouth
yeah, doing the V
doing
for the
the hand, yeah, the hand thing. Um, but it wasn't like Victory Garden. It wasn't,
right, right.
wearing lipstick for, it was a British woman's just wearing lipstick,
Yeah.
whatever. I wish we had have been better. I know that by 44, everyone's exhausted. War
Oh
has been
yeah.
at their doorstep since 39 physically, and
Yeah.
prior to that, whispers of it. I
God,
can
Great Britain
imagine the
held on. I mean,
exhaustion,
they held on they dug in and held on. I mean, so you have to give them
mm,
credit
for sure.
for resiliency. They were the only ones that he couldn't
Yeah,
Hitler couldn't
exactly.
get in.
No, never could properly invade. And
No.
I think it's a testament to the people protecting themselves. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I always go back to that quote where I've seen it shared a number of times on Instagram, but it's Hitler built a fortress around Europe, but he forgot to put a roof on it.
Yeah, he left it wide open. He didn't complete the job.
No,
He thought he did. He thought he could.
which is why I
Um,
think that the that Great Britain really was able
yeah,
to
to
dig in and
protect
hold on. Yeah.
themselves. Absolutely. By VE Day and the demobilization of British armed forces, there were 190,000 members of the ATS, and by war's official end, 250,000 women had served in the ATS in some capacity.
That's a large number of women. That is
It's
that
a
is a
large number
lot.
of women. From what I can gather, a lot of them did not. They stayed for their conscription service and then they were out.
Yeah.
It seems to be that only the women from World War One who were with the Queen Mary Auxiliary,
Yeah.
it seemed they stayed for the long haul
They
from
were career military. Yeah.
38 all
Yeah.
the way through. And I feel like it proved that a woman could do anything a man could do. Again, it's the same theme
Yeah.
of everything we talk about, is that a woman can do it and sometimes better. And these skills that they gained were used for when the NHS was born. These women had the skills to be able to be employed by the
Yeah.
NHS and really begin an excellent service. And then in 1949, the ATS was absorbed and they formed the Women's Royal Army Corps, which was the WAAC. And again, women were taken seriously only after a time of trouble, only after a time of war. They were not taken seriously previously too, because of course they weren't.
Deep
What
sigh.
a gripe I have. Deep sigh.
Utter shock.
I'm excited to get into like the notable members of the ATS. One of them is very commonly known. The other one, not so much. So I didn't know this woman was in the ATS. Winston Churchill's daughter.
I did not know that until we started researching.
Yeah.
I guess if your father is Winston Churchill and, you can't really, A, hide from conscription, B, your name is pretty big, and I'm assuming people would want to know, well, what are you doing?
I know that she was in the ATS and the British Red Cross, and she did work with the Women's Voluntary Service for a number of years before joining the ATS.
Oh, so she was very active in
she was very active
wartime service in general. Yeah.
I'm not sure how accurate this was, but do you recall in SAS Rogue Heroes in season 1 where they take Churchill's son with them on that mission where they all have to they've all got the big silly beards and they have to put on.
Yeah.
That's Churchill's son. I'm not entirely sure of the accuracy. It's funny. I don't want to burst my bubble on that because
I remember that. Those big stupid beards.
The glued on beard. They could have just had them grow a beard.
But they glued these.
I'm really upset that we didn't go through that when we interviewed Corin Silver. I'm upset we didn't talk about those atrocious glued.
Well, he was in that scene, wasn't he?
It's been a minute since I've watched.
Yes, it's been a minute since I watched season 1.
Mary Churchill Soames served in the ATS, and like you said, she volunteered quite a bit during the war. She worked with the British Red Cross, and she worked with the Women's Voluntary Service from 1939 to 1941. And following this, she joined the ATS. She really got stuck in. Truly, she served in London, Belgium, and Germany, all in mixed anti-aircraft batteries.
That's incredible.
And she reached the rank of junior commander, which is the equivalent of officer. And she also accompanied her father on many trips while she was serving with the ATS. She served as his aide-de-camp on overseas travels. Most notably, his post-war trip to Potsdam, where he met with Stalin and Harry Truman. And she was awarded an MBE for her meritorious military service in 1945.
That's amazing.
She did quite a bit.
She did.
She did quite a bit.
She really lived up to the name Churchill.
Yeah. I'm not entirely sure if it was necessary for her to do all that, but the fact that she found it within herself to volunteer that much in multiple branches and help the war effort that much, despite her place of
status. Yeah.
Yes, and despite her place in the hierarchy in terms of the country, very impressive. The second notable person I feel like is obviously if you hear the ATS, you are gonna know this. Princess Elizabeth, later Queen Elizabeth II. She enlisted after she turned 18 in 1944. So while the age was 17, she could have joined prior. I believe she probably had to have special permissions from her father, which would make sense. I know her sister, Princess Margaret, was in the Girl Scouts. She was obviously younger. So around the time that Elizabeth is enlisting in the ATS, I believe Margaret is 14.
Right. So she's too young to serve in the military.
She is in the Girl Scouts though, and they did a great amount for the war effort. I believe they took part in the bundles, like they were collecting the bundles.
I believe the same of the Girl Scouts in the US as well. Yes.
And I think that's how the swap started to happen. However, despite needing the special permission, her father, King George, made sure that Elizabeth was not given a special rank or special treatment during her time of enlistment. So he did not let her enter in as a junior commander. He did not let her flaunt her status around. He wanted her to enlist as a civilian would. He wanted her to enlist as Elizabeth Regina. So she joined as a second subaltern and was later promoted to junior commander.
I would have said subaltern correctly.
No, I know, but I have to remind myself to say it correctly because I've watched that episode so many times. that my brain instantly goes.
I was just watching it this morning. I was laying in bed watching it.
My brain goes to.
My brain automatically goes to Anthony Boyle wrapped in a towel wearing just his crush cap.
Was that Gable or Tracy?
Oops.
Tracy.
What thought Gable?
What is that Gable?
But no, that's where my brain goes, to him kind of pacing around going, subaltern. Subaltern. Subaltern.
He's opening that letter and he's just mumbling to himself.
It's very Cross coded. It's very Harry Crosby coded.
I have to remind myself how to say it, which is why I made that face.
I thought you were looking at me and I'm like, I would have said it correctly. I know how to say it. I'm
making my brain say it properly, because again, all I can see is Cross mumbling the word subaltern to himself, opening that letter. So she was promoted to junior commander,
but she earned it, not just because she was the princess.
Yes, she trained as a mechanic in 1945, and she took a driving and maintenance course at Aldershot. Aldershot is in Hampshire, and the newspapers dubbed her Princess Auto Mechanic. Very inventive.
I love the pictures of her changing the tires, and she looks so happy in her service.
And
so free. No, she's not under any kind of royal pressure. I think that her military service kind of shaped her in a way that she ruled as queen.
She knew that by serving her country, she was already serving her country. Does that make sense? By serving her country in the war effort, she knew it was coming.
Yeah.
She knew eventually that she would be queen.
Not as young as she became queen, but yes, eventually she would become queen.
So she serves her country prior to then serving her country.
Correct.
Am I making sense?
It was almost like, preparation. She really was. She was preparing for it. But I love the photos of her changing the tires and bent over the hood of the trucks.
Yeah.
And where her parents are there, the king and queen are there inspecting. And she's just ready for inspection. And they're smiling at her, trying not to be like so proud. But
it's really very funny that tradition carried on, because there was multiple times when Harry and William were in the army and the queen came to inspect them. And there's one picture of her and Harry, which I find so funny, where she's poked him and he's trying not to laugh. And the picture is she's giggling.
Yes.
Even though she cannot treat him as her grandson at that moment, she has poked him in the rib and he's like trying not to giggle and she's giggling at him. It's a great picture.
Princess Anne. Did she serve as well in the military?
Yes. All the children did.
All of them did.
All of her children did. And the William and Harry, I know for sure.
Definitely. Oh no, William and Harry, I know for sure.
Don't think Eugenie did. I don't think Beatrice did. I think just the male.
At that point,
correct me on that.
There's an interview, and I forget if it's with William or with Harry. They were on their base. They were serving. It's Harry, and some kind of alarm, and he rips the microphone off his uniform and he runs. And it was so impressive to see it as an American, because I'm like, how many of our would as an American, I think that the royal family is very impressive in the sense that, oh my God, this is just this magnificent kind of hierarchy. I know you have certain feelings on it.
Yes, that's just because
you grew
Irish.
Up. You're Irish, even though you grew up in the UK. You're Irish. There's no slide. Listen, I grew up in America. I'm Italian. I mean,
there you go. From what I remember with that interview, I remember I watched it live because obviously it was Prince Harry. You can see him listening to the interviewer, but you can also see his eyes.
He's watching what's going on around him. Yes.
He can hear the commotion, hears the alarm, and someone pats him on. There is no communication, like oral communication. Someone pats him and he rips it off and he runs. Yes.
So 2013.
It's Afghanistan.
So, okay. So we were, I mean, I was older at that point. 2013, I was out of college. I was working already. So I remember it very vividly.
Yeah.
But
I was
Americans are always very enamored with the royal family, I feel like, and it's because we don't have that here. It doesn't exist.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, again,
Like
I
the
have
UK, you guys,
feelings.
you have the queen or the king, and then you have
Yeah.
the prime minister. We just
We
have the
have all.
president.
I love the scene in The Crown where I believe her and Philip are on honeymoon in the safari in
And
Africa.
she's telling them how to fix the
And
Jeep.
she says, "Move over. I was a mechanic in the war." And they're like, "We can't fix it." And they're pouring water into it because it's overheating. And she's like, "What are you doing? Move." Tells all these men to get out the way.
Yeah.
And she fixes it. And I remember she slams it shut. She goes, "There you go." And Philip's looking at her like heart eyes, like Bugs Bunny.
Oh, yes.
It's really nice.
A picture of her as an older woman. This is not from The Crown, but as an older woman, she's behind the wheel of her Range Rover or her Land Rover, and she's got her little scarf, and it almost looks like she could barely look over the steering wheel, but she's driving that truck. And I'm like, this woman was just, she was just so damn cute.
She was so cute, and she, my favorite video of her is where they're at, I don't know what event it is, but cows. She sees cows and she yells cows.
Yes.
So cute. She didn't go overseas. She spent most of her service at training facilities. So while her father made sure she was not given a special rank or special treatment, I don't believe he was gonna let her go overseas too, like in too far into the war,
combat,
too far
yeah.
into combat. But she still was the face of the ATS, and I am very sure it encouraged a lot of young women to also pick the ATS during conscription, so that they could be with Elizabeth. During her life, she was known to diagnose and repair faulty engines. So she was telling everyone off if they had bad they had bad cars. But no, I found this so fun. I love getting into stuff that I should have learned at school. It's such a shame that
they don't teach it for you. I mean, like this, we would have never learned this in the States.
No.
It always surprises me, like the war was on your country's damn doorstep.
And I learned about rationing and the Blitz and evacuation, and that is the most I can recall.
We learned about the Holocaust.
We also learned that in high school, yeah.
And Pearl Harbor. You learn about the Holocaust, you learn about Pearl Harbor.
We didn't get Pearl Harbor.
Very, very minimal. I remember one year in school, the teacher was like, if somebody can come in tomorrow and tell me what the importance of the date is, and it was December 7th.
Right.
If somebody can come in tomorrow and tell me what the importance of the date is, there was like extra credit or bonus or something like that. So I had gone home. I remember going home that night and I was like, and I was young, right? So at this point, young enough, Band of Brothers isn't even out yet.
Yeah.
There is no reason that I should be hovering, watching my dad watch Patton or anything like that. Like I was
he loves Patton, though.
That is his jam, I swear. At this point, like I'm saying, like everybody knows I've said it 1,000 times. I know World War II, my dad, this and that. I'm too young for it at this point, right?
Right.
Maybe I'm 11, maybe not even 11. Maybe I'm pushing 10. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I went home and I'm like, what is the importance of December 7th? And my dad was like, it's Pearl Harbor Day. And I said, well,
what's that?
Teacher asked, if somebody could come in tomorrow and what's the importance? So he said, oh, it's Pearl Harbor Day, a day that will live in infamy. And I went in the next day and the teacher was like, did anybody find out what the importance of? And I raised my hand and I said, it's, a day which will live in infamy. It's Pearl Harbor Day. And that was kind of where we learned a little bit about Pearl Harbor. But we were young, so they're not going to get very gritty with it. They're not going to give you the death count. They're not going to give you the casualty list. You're not going to get, you learn about the USS Arizona. You learn that it was Japan that bombed the United States. But then, like, I remember very clearly at that point, kids in school are very ruthless. Any Asian kid in the class at that point, they were like, you bombed our country. The other kids were like, you bombed our country. It's like, they
didn't do anything.
And this is why it's like, you don't teach it properly. Like, teach it properly or don't teach it at all.
Agreed. And I very
clearly remember a lot of the Asian kids being like, why are they being bullied?
Yeah,
kids were bullied
picked on for something they
for
didn't
something that
even
happened
do.
at that point, 60 years ago, 50 years ago.
Yeah, it's insane, isn't it?
It's nuts to me.
But
But kids
no,
are ruthless.
I really enjoyed learning about this, and I'm really happy to share it with everyone. Again,
This was
it
really,
helps
really great.
people.
I was very happy to learn it. I was very
It
happy
helps
to
people
research it.
learn. It helps people, again, fall down the same rabbit holes as us, find even more cool people that serve with the ATS. I'd love to get into more in depth the women that we mentioned, Nora Cavani. I'd love to do
I
an
would love
episode
to
about
learn more
her.
about Nora Cavani.
I'd love to do an episode on conscription as a whole. Like, this opened so many, again, it unraveled so many things that we could get into in later dates. And I love episodes like this where we focus on one thing, and then as we are telling our listeners the information and what we learned, we're like, oh, we could go into this, we could get into this, we could make episodes about this. So I found it really fun. And I really hope that everyone enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. I had a great time.
I had a wonderful time.
Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Yeah,
again.
Thanks, everybody,
really
for hanging out with us, for listening. We had a great time.
Really hope you enjoyed it. Any questions, feel free to reach out, and we'll try our best to answer. Again, if we got anything wrong.
Any suggestions, too? If you know something about the ATS, if you know, shoot us a message.
Yeah, do that. That'd be really cool.
Shoot us a message, shoot us an email. I mean, we're not, at this point, you guys know we're not hoity-toity about our information. If we get something wrong, we want to correct ourselves. If we missed something, we want to include it.
Agreed. Absolutely.
We compensate in coffee and donuts. So just, come hang out with us.
Yeah. Thanks again, everyone.
Thanks,
We'll
everybody.
see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.